Hello there, my name is Pankaj Mishra. You're watching News9 Live. Well, today we bring you the top story of the day, and that is by all measures, the standoff, the diplomatic standoff between India and Canada. Amid the ongoing strain in the diplomatic relations between the two countries, the Ministry of External Affairs addressed Canada's allegations against India. India has called the accusation of Canada as politically motivated and noted a degree of prejudice in Ottawa's stance. India says Canada has shared no specific information regarding the allegations, whereas from the Indian side, very specific evidence of criminal activities based on Canadian soil have been shared with the Canadian authorities on a regular basis, but they have not been acted upon so far. India also reiterated that Canada is providing safe havens to terrorists, and at least 20 to 25 individuals were named by India over the years, but no action has been taken. On the issue of visas, India said that the high commissions in Canada are not working properly due to threats. This is the reason why India's high commission and consulates are not able to process visa applications temporarily in Canada.
Yes, I do think there is a degree of prejudice here, They have made the allegations, they have taken action on them. To us, it seems or it appears that these allegations by the government of Canada are primarily politically driven. Manish, your query was on briefing our partners, etc. Look, on this one, as I said, we have been, of course, engaged with our partners on various issues, particularly including this one. We have been discussing. If you're talking about reputational issues and reputational damage, if there's any country that needs to look at this, I think it is Canada and its growing reputation as a place, as a safe haven for terrorists, for extremists, and for organized crime. And I think that's a country that needs to worry about its international reputation. That in English, you are aware of the security threats being faced by our High Commission and consulates in Canada. This has disrupted their normal functioning. Accordingly, our High Commission and consulates are temporarily unable to process visa applications. We will be reviewing the situation on a regular basis. और किसके साथ कोई कंपैरिजन नहीं करना चाहता हूँ, लेट मी क्लैरिफाई. वहाँ सेफ हेवंस दे रहे हैं कनाडा में, वहाँ पे हम चाहेंगे कि उनके कैनेडियन सरकार सेफ हेवंस न दें, और जिनके अगेंस्ट ऐसे टेररिज्म के चार्जेस हैं उनके ऊपर एक्शन ले, और वहाँ आइदर उनके ऊपर वहाँ एक्शन ले या हमें यहाँ जस्टिस फेस करने के लिए यहाँ भेजे. मुझे पूछा गया था, आई थिंक somebody asked how many such cases were there. My understanding is over 20 individuals. I don't have exact number. That's for security agencies. We have sought either extradition requests or other kind of assistance related to that. So at least more than 20, maybe 25 individuals we have requested over, and not just recently. So many years we've been requesting, and the response has not been helpful at all. देखिए, इंडियन स्टूडेंट्स जो वहाँ पे हैं, हमने जैसे कहा एडवाइजरी हमने इशू किया है. हमारे हाई कमीशन, हमारे काउंसुलेट्स वहाँ चल रहे हैं, वो काम हो रही है. उनमें कोई दिक्कत हो उनसे कांटेक्ट करें, पर हमने एडवाइजरी में कहा है कि एहतियात बरतें, देखें क्या हो रहा है. ऐसे स्पेसिफिक कोई हमारे पास और एडिशनल इनपुट्स अभी नहीं है. ये प्रश्न किसी और ने भी पूछा था कि हमारे स्टूडेंट्स जो है उनको वीजा, हमारे वीजा पॉलिसी से कोई उनको फर्क नहीं पड़ना चाहिए, वो इंडियन सिटीजन्स हैं. और कनाडा क्या करेगी ये कैनेडियन अथॉरिटी से आपको पूछना पड़ेगा, मैं उसके बारे में कुछ कह नहीं पाऊँ. ऋषभ.
All right, so there we heard it, the spokesperson for Ministry of External Affairs, and in no uncertain terms, India calling a spade and saying that Canada has been dragging its feet as far as the action against these Khalistani terrorists is concerned. To discuss this further, the implications, what is happening, what has happened so far, and what it can tantamount to, it's my pleasure to have been joined by Ambassador Manju Seth, former Indian diplomat, Major General Sudhakarji, VSM Defense and Geopolitics expert, and Ramakrishnan Sridharan, consulting editor, is there with us. Manjuji, talking about India's stance, obviously, this has been very proactive, I would say, right from the first expulsion that happened from Ottawa's side. Within hours, we saw a tit-for-tat reaction. But where is this heading, first of all? And secondly, is it happening by the book?
It is heading absolutely downwards, and the situation has got. It's quite, strange. Also, I find that the Canadian Prime Minister, straight away, without having evidence, said there are credible allegations. I think was a statement which is really quite absurd. If you don't have evidence, how can you make a statement in Parliament and level these kind of allegations that in India, the Indian government is involved? I mean, you present the evidence and then you talk of the next thing, that the evidence is there. And you don't do it publicly. Normally you do it first bilaterally and then, if required, if doesn't, there's no this, and you escalate it. Anyway, that is there. They have done that, and their Prime Minister's decision on whatever his reasons are. And of course, one of the reasons I feel is because of his government's political instability at the moment. Because the NDP government, which is part of the government and supporting the current the Trudeau government, is absolutely a pro-Khalistani sort of political dispensation. And it has really, I think, put pressure on PM Trudeau, I feel, and that's why this, action is. I think that could be the reason. Right. They may have threatened to withdraw support or something. I mean, I'm just speculating. I don't have any insight in. It looks like that, and so he has taken this, made this statement in their parliament and tried to, an anti sort of government towards the government. So I thought that was not done normally, but he's just done it. And,
absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. Ramakrishnan Sridharan joining us all the way from Washington, D.C. Good morning, should I say, Shri. Thank you so much for taking time out. Well, in your neighborhood, all is not well, it appears. And given the frosty ties, if I may say so, between India and Canada, obviously has cast a long shadow as far as the relations are concerned, and also Justin Trudeau's approach towards the United States, France and other G7 members that he spoke with. In your opinion, how does India stand as of now, first of all? And secondly, can West actually ignore India?
So, Pankaj, the point is India has made its position very clear. And I think the need now is for, in the last few days, we've seen a rapid deterioration of the relations between the two countries. Now, what, one should want to see is a quick rapprochement and coming together of the two countries to basically take a serious look at the allegation that, the evidence that India has submitted with regard to these Khalistani activists, terrorists, that India calls them terrorists. And also, Canada has to be appreciative of India's concern. So I think there's a need for some kind of a bilateral task force or some kind of a group that needs to come together to investigate the issue, because I'm sure Canada doesn't want, as a country, it's a free country, it's a democratic country, it has long been a very peaceful country. So I don't think Canada really wants to be a safe haven, as our MEA spokesperson said, for these extremist elements. I think if Canada has a case that these are its citizens, then obviously it has every right to protect, it's its duty, the government's duty to protect the citizens. But where I think Canada needs to differentiate is there any credible against any of our citizens who might be involved in any kind of activity which is destabilizing to any other nation, a friendly nation in particular. So I think that really is the crux of the issue. And what is required, I think, at this point is political will. Ambassador Said talked about the Prime Minister's coalition with NDP, and the NDP leader is a well-known Khalistan supporter. So there is a need, political will, for both the countries to recognize that these issues cannot be solved if allegations are traded at each other, and then you go down a slippery road from where coming back becomes very difficult. So I think there's an urgent need for these two countries to set up some sort of group that's able to look at the allegations that India has made with regard to the 20 people that the MEA spokesman said have been called as designated as terrorists by India, and Canada's concern and the evidence that Canada has. Because this needs to be resolved. We have a lot of investment from Canada, and now Indian startups are also looking at Canada. So there is a big traction there in terms of the investment and bilateral trade. So that should not suffer because there are other extraneous factors, for example, like the Khalistan issue, those should not be allowed to destabilize the relationship between the two nations, Pankaj. That's my view on this.
Right. Also, talking about the safety aspect of it, Major General Sudhakarji, it's not just a gang war anymore that has been reported in one nook and cranny of Canada, and time and again India has listed, as we heard also Mr. Bagchi saying, its complaints, its grievances against these Khalistani activities. So much so that Indira Gandhi also back in 1980s had complained to Justin Trudeau's father about the role of the Khalistani activists there. In your opinion, strategically, if I may ask you, what is the best possible way out as of now? And secondly, a hardened stance towards Canada, is this going to cut the ice?
Pankaj, good evening. Thank you for inviting me to your show.
Good evening, sir.
Your question has got two parts, and allow me to express myself. It has got a national, India-centric part. It has got a Canadian part, and it has got a part which needs to be addressed at the global level. So let me start with the Indian part. What is the Indian part? Indian part, Khalistani movement is not a new movement. It's been going on since 80s or maybe prior to that. I would say immediately after 1971 ops, when Bangladesh was liberated, its creation, the very concept is the creation of K2, Khalistan and Kashmir. On this paradigm, Pakistan started waging a war of bleeding India with 1,000 cuts. Okay, when Kashmir goes quiet, they will revive Khalistan movement. When Khalistan movement goes quiet, they have Kashmir. Now they have started another opening called Manipur with the connivance and support of China. So we'll just restrict ourselves to your question. So this part, India has suffered the most. We have had lots of losses of lives of innocent people. We have gone through very turbulent phases, and we have caught the bull by its horn, and we brought peace back to Punjab. Now again, they are trying to bring back or revive this Khalistan movement because Kashmir has started witnessing, signatures of very, very significant development. So that is not going too well. They have to, bleed India with 1,000 cuts. Who are they? They are Pakistan. Who in Pakistan is into it? ISI. Who is supporting ISI? It's China. So this is the nexus we have to understand. One. Number two, what is gang warfare in one country could be terrorism to other country. Absolutely. We have suffered enough, and 75 years is a long time for an independent, largest democracy in the world. Enough is enough. We need to call spade a spade. G20 has been, I think, an adequate platform and opportunity for India to have showcased its credibility and also assert its authority of plain, simple truthfulness. And that simple truthfulness is Global South. Global South has faced the agony and the anguish of pandemic, of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, or the disruption of the supply chain, or rise in price of fuel, food, and fertilizer. Everything is being suffered by the Global South, and it is a happy situation that even the leading economics in the world, the developed countries, they also are suffering adequately to realize the truth. So therefore, there has been 100% consensus on the Delhi Declaration, and hopefully in foreseeable future, things will be accepted. Now you come to the Canadian angle. Canadian angle, yes, adequately, more than adequately, to very esteemed panelists, co-panelists, they have brought out the issue. But there is a bigger issue to the whole thing. Why is it happening in Canada? This is my analysis, Pankaj, if you allow me. I feel there is a Chinese angle. Take your mind back to 2019. They have had adequate turbulence during the political, the campaigning as also elections. There was allegations and substantial evidence of manipulation because of one group in China. It is known as United Front Work Department, which Mao Zedong in his time used to call it as a magic weapon. And the magic weapon is supposed to carry out these wonders, ransomware or deep fake, carry out political manipulation, change the minds of the elite class people, penetrate to the media. So this is that. Now coming to the global part, if you allow me, the time has come, the opening has come. India needs to dig in its heel. I think the credibility factor is in favor of India. The apex organization at the global level, which were created way back in 1945, are no longer relevant. Counter-terrorism as a solution to the ongoing problem which India is bearing the brunt, I think has to be pushed, the agenda has to be pushed to a level of acceptance by everyone. Proposal was voted in the United Nations Security Council as also the General Assembly in 1996. Since then, the definition of terrorism has not been accepted. The proposals, the architecture which India had proposed has not been accepted. Thanks to 9/11, America is one of the countries, the superpower, they realized the meaning of it. But thereafter, no action has been taken. I think this is a beautiful opportunity. India has to push the agenda. Being accepted at the global level, find a solution to common challenges in the global order today. Back to you, Pankaj.
Thank you, Major General, for that in-depth analysis. And as Major General mentions, the role of China, this is something that is also finding mention in Canadian political circles and journalistic circles also. Daniel Boardman is one such journalist in Canada. Hear it for yourself what he has to say about this ongoing standoff between between Canada and India.
Yeah, I mean, trying to decipher the motivations of Justin Trudeau can be a maddening task at times. To figure out why he's done what he's done here, there is no logical explanation. There's no reasonable explanation. There's no good foreign policy explanation. But this is par for the course of Canadian foreign policy since 2015. So if you want to have some Canadian context about what's going on and why he may have done this, here's what I think is maybe the leading theory we can say as to why Trudeau has started to fight with India. You know, in Canada, we have this big specter of foreign interference from China. That's the major scandal right now. It's Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party was getting help from the CCP at different points in elections. And how much did they know? How much did they not know? There was a kidnapped 2 diplomats, the 2 Michaels, and how were there Liberals doing back channel deals with the CCP to help keep them in jail? It's a whole big thing that we need an investigation into. So in order to shift the specter from Chinese foreign interference, we have a story in Canada, which is essentially a story about Pakistani foreign interference being framed as a story of Indian foreign interference to cover up the real story, which is Chinese interference.
Now, well, a journalist from Canada pointing, conclusion or connecting it with Chinese role. Ambassador Manju, we have seen this in the past also that all roads somehow start leading to China. Everything starts pointing to China, and especially in this scenario, how best both the countries, not just India, not just Canada, but both of them could actually look beyond the obvious and try and either mend ways or find a lasting solution to it. Does diplomacy allow this much of elbow room?
Absolutely, it allows this elbow room to maneuver, but both sides have to be willing. And at the moment, it doesn't look like Canada is willing. Maybe as the Canadian journalist mentioned, it could be trying to, to sort of hide the China hand. They're blaming India for various things, but we don't know. We don't know what the real story is, but it is quite plausible. Given what is happening, in different countries and what China's activities have been. And of course, the China-Pakistan nexus cannot be forgotten. Another element I'd just like to mention here is that, yes, both countries really need to work together. And I think it may be possible only from another government after another party, another government after the elections. But even with this government, because we have had ups and downs, but we need to find a solution. If you look at the Khalistan issue, one element that I'd like to point out is that there is no traction for it within India at all. Even within the majority of the Sikhs in Canada, there is no traction. It's only a small element. And there are a number of these, 4 or 5 organizations who are also at loggerheads with each other, who claim to be, pro-Khalistani. But do they work together? I doubt very much from all reports. And for them to, for Canada to say that this is a legitimate free speech and that they have been facing prosecution in India and so they should be allowed to voice their opinion. Yes, voicing their opinion is all very good, or their protests, but to claim to make it a directed hate speech kind of thing, and for the Canadian government not to do anything. There have been these reports where they're saying all the Hindus should go back, and the consul general should be killed, the ambassador should be, the high commissioner should be killed, the Indian high commissioner. So all these kind of targeted kind of hate speech should have been stopped, or shall some action should be taken against these elements. But obviously, the Trudeau government has done nothing. It has not taken cognizance of all the attacks that have taken place, and so unless for the relationship to get back, Canada definitely needs to do a rethink, to understand what it is doing, and try and mend this relationship, which is important because as you well know, a lot of Indian students are going there every year. Huge amounts. They're contributing huge amounts of the economy of Canada by living there, by paying their high tuition fees. So many other Indian businesses are there, investments are there. So I'm not sure he would want to endanger all aspects, which Canada needs all these investments and this money for its economy, and so it really needs to find a solution. India, of course, the huge number of Indian and Indian diaspora there, we would want their interests to be protected, definitely, and so for us and investments to be protected, so we would like the situation to improve. Right. But I think it has to be on both sides.
It has to be from both sides. Obviously, it takes two to tango there. Shri, very point here that, a handful of these elements have been creating nuisance for a long, long time, which tantamounts to terrorist activities, by the way. But this is also putting the Sikhs in a bad light. I mean, we heard today Shiromani Akali Dal's leader saying that, it is putting all the Sikhs into a different light altogether and poses a lot of threat also. In your opinion, a country as big as United States, where Indian diaspora is also, almost a part of the society now, it is very much there, and so happens for Canada. So how does it become difficult, or for that matter easy also, to navigate through these challenges? Can that be used?
So, Pankaj, on your point about the Sikhs, even in Canada, I think even in India, we know that Sikhs are some of the most hardworking, enterprising, friendly, right? So there's absolutely no doubt about it. And as Ambassador Manju said, there is absolutely no support even within the community for any Khalistan, movement. And that's actually the case in Canada too. The problem is the minority, which wants Khalistan, is not just very vocal, but also violent. I'll give you one small example. About a week ago, there was a referendum held in Canada for, vote on Khalistan, informal kind of a referendum. Obviously, it has no official basis, nothing. So the group which is organizing it had touted that 75,000 people will turn up for it. But actually, just 7,000 people came for it. So there's absolutely no support, because people who have gone from India, they are focused on their well-being, their families. So these radical elements that are there, they are using not just their religion, their community, but using even terror and local gangsters to further their cause. So which is completely in conflict with what the community there wants. So that is number one. Second, a major mentioned about the United Front group that China employs around the world. So in 2021, there's a Canadian investigative journalist called Sam Cooper, who actually wrote an entire book on how China has, called Willful Blindness, which talks about how China has infiltrated the Asian gangs, the Chinese gangs in Vancouver, to do all kinds of things, which is basically to drug, prostitution, money laundering, and they're using the Chinese gangs to do all this, and in a way to fund Canadian politicians, some of the Canadian politicians, and also to control them. So this is another thing which has become a very big issue in Canada, where the Canadian voters are very, very upset that this is happening. And as Ambassador Seth also pointed out, this could be some sort of a red herring to divert attention from the larger problem which Canada faces, which is absolutely of China, which has which has acquired a lot of real estate in Vancouver, driving prices up, creating problems for the local people. A lot of the drug trade, prostitution, everything is controlled by the Chinese gangs with support from the Chinese Communist Party. So, so these are all some issues which Canada needs to focus on, and it has to realize that India is ultimately a big democracy. We are not a dictatorial country like China. We're not a communist country. We are a democratic country where, you know, every 5 years we elect a government, and therefore our issues are much more genuine than, you know, any other countries. So I think the urgent need is for both the countries to, you know, prevent this from you know, escalating to any kind of a lower, you know, kind of a point, you know, going forward to Pankaj, and start talks which will actually you know, resolve the issues that are on the table. Because Canada is a strong democratic country with strong values, and India is in the world's largest. There's no reason why these two countries cannot work together to solve whatever problems they have. I think the political will is needed to come to the table and start talking.
Indeed, valid points there, Shri. And Major General, one key aspect, you know, that emanates from what Shri and Ambassador Seth have mentioned is the fact that how this smaller faction, if you know, Canada doesn't read the writing on the wall now, could turn to be that prophetic words of Hillary Clinton, that snakes in your backyard won't, you know, we shouldn't think that they will just bite the neighbors. So that scenario is also a reality. If Khalistan, these people turn their gun towards the Canadian government or Canadian establishment with tacit support to China, I think that would be once again, you know, a losing scenario for Canada. So how to navigate this situation? What are the possibilities, and how best this can be tackled also?
Pankaj, excellent, brilliant question. But your question is oriented towards the global response, not how India should respond to Canadian situation. So allow me, last round, I think I covered it bottom up. Now you please allow me to cover it from top to bottom. Okay. So, there is a friend of mine who did a course with me, NDC. He is from abroad. Through through social media, he has given me the example of how Saudi Arabia responded to a similar situation in 2018. When a Canadian minister made a tweet criticizing Saudi government in 2018 for arresting a Saudi human rights activist, this is how the Prince Mohammed responded. Gave 24 hours for Canadian ambassador to leave the country. Recalled Saudi ambassador back to the kingdom. Froze all further flights to Canada. Froze all investment and business transactions to Canada. Ominously recalled the Arabic saying, "He who interferes with what doesn't concern him finds what doesn't please him." Declared 12,000 Saudi students in Canada will be relocated to other countries with similar education. In short, the response was swift, furious, disproportionate. To make matters worse for the Canadians, the US refused to take sides. It took years to diplomatic relations to resume between two countries. So with this episode, the Prince sent a strong message: if you mess with us, be prepared to face our wrath. So therefore, what it brings me to is that at the global level, I see a big design which is unfolding in geopolitics. What is that design? Pakistan has been claiming, or rather been asserting itself, that no matter what happens to the global order, it is going to integrate Taiwan initially by peaceful means, but if peace doesn't work, it won't mind, applying the kinetic means, by means of conflict. So Taiwan becomes the central point, whether it is by 2027 or say 37. So one central point. Now the pivot of Asia, or let's say the global alliance pivot, has shifted from Middle East to Indo-Pacific. China, to my understanding, very tactically and very, very intelligently managed to the conflict zone to Central Europe by triggering conflict between Russia and Ukraine way back in February 2022. Yes, 24th of February 2022. Otherwise, things would have happened in a much more aggressive manner by virtue of coming together of the Western alliances and the pivot having shifted to Indo-Pacific. Secondly, as the war is touching or crossing 19 months now in Central Europe, there is a grave danger. The kind of militarization, the way it is unfolding, there is all possibility of the military might of Western alliance or Quad or call it by AUKUS, all these like-minded democratic countries coming together and make things possible for China to fulfill its pending dream or agenda, that is to integrate Taiwan. Therefore, China in its wisdom is very tactically, by military strategy, is shifting the focus of the global turbulence to a country, target selection. Thus, mind you, why has he selected Canada? Canada has got largest number of Sikhs. We have had problems in Punjab in 1984 or the Khalistani movement. Okay, with great challenge and struggle, we managed to bring peace to Punjab. And China has selected the target 12,000 kilometers away approximately. Keep in mind that there is some connection, some linkages which can be leveraged by China and the United Front, the Works Department. So that is the global. Now, allow me to just come down to answer your question. How do you navigate? Navigation actually requires tooth for tooth, eye for eye. This is the year, this is the century of the Asian century. In Asian century, this is India's century. 75 years is a long time, $3.75 trillion. We are hoping to become the third biggest economy in a couple of years from now. Now, G20 has given us adequate opportunity to showcase our strength, military might, economic might, our diplomatic capability. It's a huge success diplomatically. Just mind you, not a word or footnote given in the document. Look at the effort our team has put in. And India, I think, should not buckle under pressure. We need to assert our students are maximum there in Canada. We have largest Indian diaspora, one of the largest diaspora. If I am not wrong, I was just browsing in the internet, 1.4 million, and total strength is 1.8 million or so. Do not buckle under pressure. Everything is navigable. We need to bring Canada accountable to the status of accountability and hold it responsible as to why a developed country as the stature of Canada cannot follow what they're preaching. What are they preaching? They're preaching rules-based international order.
Right.
Why can't Canada do this? So hold them accountable, use it to the advantage of India, and we must assert ourselves. Canada cannot do. Business is not going to hamper the progress. Let's not unnecessarily, navigate in a way which is going to keep us defensive. This is the time for aggression. Then aggression has to be on an escalatory matrix. I don't say you launch a missile to hit Canada. I am saying use every component available. The tools of our country and the warfare must be utilized in a calibrated manner, in an escalatory matrix, so as to derive maximum advantage and outcome in favor of the national interest of India. Back to you, Pankaj.
Right, obviously, and today, as fate would have it, one more gangster was killed in Canada in a gang war that apparently took place. We will come to that in the later part, but yes, before that, ladies and gentlemen, I would request you to stay with us to listen in some comments, remarks from our lawmakers, Indian lawmakers, what they have to say about the impact this standoff is having on both the countries.
What will happen to the kids? Will they be able to come back? Will they be able to get a visa to go there? And such a panic is not nice. The relationship of both countries needs to be settled at the top level. And I feel the people of the nation should not suffer because of that. Punjabis and Sikhs are the most patriotic people. They have sacrificed and suffered maximum during the independence struggle, and till date they always stand for the nation. Writing a letter to the Prime Minister, I'll try to take it up with the Prime Minister, because this needs to be settled, because as things are getting, as the days are going on, things are getting worse, the panic is increasing, because a lot of lives of Indians and Punjabis and especially Sikhs are interconnected with Canada and here. There should not be a panic. Government of India should immediately take up with their counterpart in Government of Canada and settle this issue, because if it goes out of hand, it will affect a lot of Indians.
My thoughts are that it's an extremely disappointing development. Many Indians have been seething with frustration at the way in which people who are, if not terrorists themselves, are flagrantly inciting violence against our country, talking about the dismemberment of India, have been able to get complete freedom and sanctuary in a country like Canada. But we have valued our relationship with Canada, and we have not escalated our concerns beyond a certain point, though we have, I'm sure, conveyed them at various levels to the Canadian authorities. It's a relationship we've always valued. The trade is at considerable levels. We have a large Indian diaspora population there, 1.7 million people in a country of just 40 million. We also have, of course, a large number of Indian students, and the number has been increasing. So there have been a lot of things we value in the relationship. I would have expected that Canada would value the relationship as well. But the extraordinary decision of the Prime Minister to go public with an allegation without a shred of evidence of Indian government complicity in a murder in his country shocks me, to be very frank. I believe the story is that it was triggered by the fact that a media leak was about to happen of this allegation. A media story is one thing for a Prime Minister, for political reasons, to want to get ahead of a media story. It really looks like it's doubling down on the pandering to a certain political element in that country. We know the government is dependent upon certain support, and perhaps this is why they needed to do that. There have elections also coming up very soon.
तो हम चाहेंगे कि सरकार कल डिस्कशन करा दे जरा लोकसभा में, डिस्कशन हो जाए इसके ऊपर. बहुत अच्छा है, कल एक दिन आखिरी दिन है लोकसभा में, तो करवा दें डिस्कशन. सरकार डिस्कशन करवा दे कनाडा के ऊपर, अच्छा रहेगा. हम तो डिमांड करते हैं.
So there we see multitude of emotions, sentiments and remarks coming up, obviously in a matter which not just delves on the security aspect, but also the socio-cultural, business and you name it, and India and Canada have that kind of relationships. Ambassador Seth, I was listening to the Shiromani Akali Dal representative, and he mentions a very critical aspect of students. And if you integrate that, it becomes obviously the businessmen who are there and the expats who are living there. Last time when an advisory was issued targeting the students, or specifically mentioning the students, was in Ukraine. That was a different kind of crisis, a warlike crisis. This situation is an unforeseen, unseen sort of situation. How difficult it is as of now, from the diplomatic point of view, once again, to carry this message across, that what kind of safety measures should be there, what are the risks involved, and how best to tackle them?
Absolutely. We can only, hope that it doesn't get out of hand and start targeting the students, especially because but these so-called Khalistani, pro-Khalistani elements have started issuing threats and saying Indians, Hindus, and others go back from here, and and they are going to take out, I believe, for the next 5 days to the 25th, there are going to be some protests everywhere. So normally the advisories that people issue to students is that please keep away from these places where these processions will be going. Don't go out alone. Just remain within your campuses and try not to put yourself in danger, in harm's way. That's normally what we tell in any situation. And as you mentioned, normally it is a warlike situation where we issue such advisories. But in the case of Canada, we can see that this is an unprecedented kind of situation where these groups are actually openly threatening the Indian and Hindu community. And when it, as you said also, Pankaj, that the snakes in the backyard similarity that you gave. When these elements will turn against the Canadian government and other the Canadian citizens, non-Indian citizens as well, we can't, it's only a matter of time if it's allowed to, continue like this, if the situations are allowed to continue like this. And students are easy, easy targets. So I think they need to keep out of harm's way. They have to be careful and not go anywhere where these elements normally congregate and during these processions or these protests that they are going to take out. So for the next 5 days or the next 1 week, they have to be very careful. And also they've issued, and they're going to, they have threatened the the diplomatic staff again in our consulates and in the High Commission. So I think again, this is something which is not acceptable. If they are threatening, I think that it's incumbent on the host government to ensure the security and safety of the Indian consular and embassy staff.
Right, the diplomatic
but
staff.
They're just diplomatic staff. They don't seem to be concerned at all. So I think it is quite unprecedented, this kind of attitude.
Right,
and
right.
Really,
What is some situation? Indeed, Shri, absolutely. If you look at minutely at these aspects, on the face of it, definitely it appears that there are two powerful democracies, taking each other head on a particular issue, on a particular comment that was made, and no substantial evidences have been given. But if you look at a very microcosmic look at that, then there are so many things that go haywire. And especially, as Ambassador Seth also mentioned, that students staying of the harm's way, very important. But secondly, in your opinion, how is Canada's situation, how is Canada placed right now? Because what Arindam Bagchi also said was very clear, that the ball is in Canada's court. It's their onus. They have to prove their side of the story and maybe act on it. So I would say a precarious position here for Canada.
So, no, on the first point, Pankaj, the advisory and, the threats which the Khalistani groups have been issuing against Indian diplomats. Now, I'll be very, very surprised if the Canadian government just stood by and allowed any of this to be carried out, any of these mobilization to be turned into any kind of actual threat. Because don't forget, it's the Canadian government's responsibility and duty to protect anyone who's within their country, whether they're on a visitor visa, student visa, or they're actually Canadian citizens.
On their soil.
I don't think that is really going to happen. I hope it doesn't happen. And I'm fairly confident it will not happen. Now, obviously, given the severity with which India has responded, I think it is incumbent that Canada should, take these concerns very, very seriously and see if the credible allegations which it says it has are indeed true. Because the Prime Minister did not say that these are credible evidence. He said these are credible allegations. So to that extent, I think, allegations are allegations because you don't have anything to conclusively prove that they are, facts. That is why they are called allegations. Till they are proved, it's just an allegation. So credible allegation, I don't know what to make of it. Credible evidence would have been something else. So I think it's incumbent on Canada also to revisit what the evidence or the allegation that it has come across and then see how it needs to resolve this, because there is absolutely no doubt that we need to resolve this, because we can't allow this to escalate into something bigger than this. Because as the Major General also said, these are anti-social and anti elements with society at large, elements which end up creating problem for their own countries. I mean, the host country, in this case, Canada, right?
Absolutely.
So this is something which Canada needs to take seriously, and I hope the two countries will start talking soon to resolve this issue, Pankaj.
Indeed, indeed. Major General Sudhakarji, taking just a leaf from what Shri says and what Ambassador Manju said, that it's in both the countries' interest that amicable solutions are restored and this momentary, I would say, diversion is taken care of. But having said that, looking at the geopolitical aspect of it, look at India. I mean, as you rightly mentioned, the hosting of G20 tells a lot, bringing all the Western factions on the same page, agreeing to on not naming Russia as far as the declaration is concerned, to being the 5th largest economy and whatnot. India's role as of now, do you believe that India can also use its heft to get its point noted, not just to Canada, but to other bigger players also, to whom Justin Trudeau had gone?
Pankaj, very brilliant question once again. Must compliment you. Yes,
thank you.
The short and sweet answer is yes. We have the heft, we have the capability. We are already exercising in multiple manner and means. And India is going to tackle it, address it squarely and very boldly. These are my personal views, and anything less than what India is doing today will be a very meek response. Because we should be very clear, Pankaj, about one issue, that Canada needs India as much as we need Canada. Why has American aligned itself, or rather extra keen to go in for, they have gone into relax the sanction options which are available with them against India, when India insisted that come what may, we'll import oil. We have 1.4 billion population. Our national interest is to look after the interest of our people. You may impose sanction for all we care. Damn it. India went in for it. Bought cheapest of oil from Russia. It still continues to do. European Union, without any exception, almost all countries are buying oil from India, refined oil. Look at the stance, look at the strength, look at the credibility, and look at the assertion we have. 75 years is a hell of a time. It is taking us back to the golden era of, say, before 1000th century. GDP of 24.7%. Whether it happens or not, but it is taking us back to a glorious era of civilizational identity. India is a very mighty civilization. Let's not unnecessarily look for quick solution. We have to follow the path of righteousness. What is right? We know that the UN has failed. After the League of Nations failed, the UN was created. It is good for nothing. Not even once has the UN given a correct decision. I'm sure the senior ambassador Manju said, ma'am, will bail me out. Has it prevented war, the very purpose for which it was created? Has UN Security Council been able to forbid or prohibit aerial strafing of Serbia way back in 1999 for 79 days, despite the fact, not that I am favoring these two countries, P5. China and Russia were the two countries who objected. Please don't go in. Why did America come to the Iraq? You can ask n number of questions. None of the global organizations have been able to be accountable or ensure to discharge the mandate for which they were created. It's about time that we have countries like India to ensure some kind of righteousness in our dealing, in ensuring global order for rules-based international order. Sooner India goes into the leadership of decision-making, better will be the world. Only then we can follow the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Until then, we have to hold fire or calibrate. Do not succumb under any kind of pressure from anybody. Our diplomats are the best in the world. Ma'am is sitting here. She will bail me out. I have interacted with them. They are second to none. They are the best. Our people are scientists. I have been to California. I have been there in the US, traveled almost all the provinces, gone to East Asia, gone to Southeast Asia. We are the best. This Canada drama will fizzle out in this 30 days time. 30 days time, India will be able to find that solution. That I am very optimistic. They will come on the mat. The Prime Minister himself, whether he apologizes or not, it is entirely up to him. He will soon realize that it has been a faux pas on his part. He has actually written out something at the behest of the party which is supporting, because if they withdraw, then his government is going to fall. And 2025 is a long time off from now. Whether that election will take place or his government is going to... I am anticipating the failure of his collapse of his government. Because the law and order, Pankaj, another if you allow me, law and order is a very serious situation in Canada. And mind you, the population of Canada, they are not staying in the hinterland. They are bordering within 100 kilometers with the border with the US. Law and order, there is a danger of Canada. When I say law and order, it means anyone and everyone. Like US, they have guns, not one or two, number of them. People go for marches in car, they line up one behind other. When they get down from the car, each one is holding a gun. So where is the civility of the rules-based governance in the state? So it is not 2023. It has been going on for past 10, 15 years. It's about time that the governance today realizes the kind of problems they are facing. It addresses them in a pragmatic and realistic manner, in a truthful manner, to find a lasting solution to the internal stability. If there is no internal stability, just mark my words, another 6 months, China will be sitting in the center of Canada. They already penetrated, like Sri brought out. They have the way of life of Canadians had actually undergone change. Their lifestyle had changed. The food habits are undergoing changing. From a safety pin to a big bolt or maybe a rocket, everything is being imported from China. China is looking out for new maritime access through the Arctic Circle. Likewise, a lot of developments are taking place. So there are no quick solutions. It is only the Honorable Prime Minister would do good to himself and Canada as a long-term perspective, objective and plan. If he ponders over the whole issue, introspects it to what he has said, what he is doing, what harm he is doing. Trade-wise, India is not going to lose much. We are exporting 4 billion, importing 4 billion. If we discount Canada, nothing is going to happen. There are new markets which are opening up. Africa itself is a big... Back to you.
Point taken, Major General. Obviously, final comments very quickly. The Ambassador said, as Major General mentions, quite apt there. You know, in Hindi, there is a couplet, I remember, part of poem, which says, Dwand kahan tak jhela jaye, boj kahan tak jhela jaye, something of this sort. For how long will it continue? And why not? India should rather be very quick as far as, calling a spade is concerned. Your final views on this?
Yes, absolutely. Jhelna bahut mushkil hai. There has to be a solution as soon as possible. But as I said, Canada has to also take that, has to rethink its approach. And India will definitely try, and I think it has to work with the other like-minded countries and allies of Canada to talk to them and also put some kind of, make him understand that what is the true position and what is he trying to do? Why is he trying to ruin Canada? And the relationship with India, but also ruining his own country. I think this is really, if the Chinese hand is allowed to increase so rapidly, or the Chinese involvement, I think it's not going to be a very happy situation for the Canadians also. So
Absolutely.
Very quick we found out, but I don't know, 30 days I hope, but I don't know.
30 days it is. The timeline has been set. Thank you so much. Shri, final thoughts. Cuts both ways, doesn't it?
No, so my final thoughts on this, Pankaj, India and Canada are not sworn enemies. They never have been. So when two countries are unable to agree on something, it usually is up to a third disinterested party, for example, the US, to and to get these two people to start talking again. So I think that's eventually what happened. Major General talked about 30 days. I think some sort of breakthrough should happen. I think the priority should be to keep things from becoming worse from here on. I think all effort should be made to sort out these issues, which are at the core of concerns for the two countries. And I'm pretty confident it will happen, Pankaj. I don't think the ethos with which India approaches foreign policy or even Canada approaches foreign policy are a dissonance with each other to that extent. Both are democracies and both, want to live peacefully in their respective regions. So I think there's a lot of commonality. It's just a question of them when and how they come together to sort these issues out.
Absolutely. Major General, wouldn't say 30 any further, but yes, final comments from your side. But please remember, it is Canada that we are talking about. Aksar, we have heard saying, "Kahan rehte hain ji, to Canada rehte hain." It is so familiar term in this part of the world. So please, bearing that mind, what would be your message to Justin Trudeau, Major General Saab?
Have a sound sleep. Think it over. There is no alternative to peace. It is only peace and harmony which actually brought all countries, like-minded democratic countries, for G20. And G20 broke off with a resounding declaration. And there is no reason as to G20 has been left behind like no other event. He is the creator of violence in the world order. We are looking for peace. Diplomacy and dialogue are the only way forward for global peace. Is he by any means contributing towards that? Who started this particular inertia or friction or the confrontation?
Right.
There is a need for him to sit back. Youth or young, blood doesn't mean that the maturity and responsibility of a developed nation will be lost sight of.
Absolutely.
There is much more, and our Honorable Prime Minister, he is the most popular leader. I am very confident that this incident also, whoever is conspiring to bring down Narendra Modi and his team, it is going to propel the government of India to further glorious heights.
Indeed, we have completely run out of time. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, your views. Always a pleasure. And thank you for taking time out this evening. So this is it from our side. We'll be back with a new edition tomorrow. Neha Khanna would be there. Nonetheless, we hope that there is a thaw in the relationship, and also India and Canada both find ways to simmer down this and also try and support each other as far as the counter-terrorism measures are concerned. Thank you so much for watching this broadcast.
Do you have a very simple SOP?
If you put filth at the mango tree's root, it becomes sweet mango.
Spokesperson like Sania Mishra written